All right, so the theory I chose to do this semester was Media Multiplexity Theory, or MMT theory. Just kind of as an intro, I felt like this was such a relevant theory because it seems to be a long-standing debate on, is technology ruining our interpersonal relationships, or is it beneficial? Are there ways that it can actually strengthen the bonds and the ties that we have with others? So that's what got me initially interested in the theory. A quick definition that Breathwaite gives in our textbook of media multiplexity theory is that it seeks to explain how and why the strength of an interpersonal bond is associated with the number of media used to maintain the relationship. Some of the important researchers or theorists with MMT are first Taylor and Bazarova. They proposed 5 main tenets of MMT. The first of which is the strength of a bond increases with the use of multiple channels of media. So more digital touch points that we have, the stronger our bond gets. The second one is how strong a bond is between individuals is actually the determining factor for our communication decisions, not the medium itself. So we don't go to Facebook because we know that's where we can make certain friends. It's actually the opposite. We have these friends and we go to Facebook for a specific reason or specific way in which to connect. The third is that the strength of a bond and a pattern of media use begin to co-create each other over time. So the stronger the bond, the more different media sources we'll use with that bond. And then the more different sources we're using, the stronger the bond becomes. The fourth is that changes in individual media use affect weak bonds more powerfully than strong bonds between individuals. So if you have this connection with a friend, but you're just starting to get to know each other, and all of a sudden you decide, I'm going to quit Twitter, and that's where you had connected most of the time, then there's more likely that you won't continue that relationship and it'll be greatly affected than if you already have a strong connection with someone and you decided to lose your Twitter account. Well, you'll probably still have that strong bond, just in different ways. Maybe you call or text more, or use a different social platform more often. And then the fifth proponent is that how strong a bond is between individuals often determines a person's time spent using various kinds of media. So again, just the tie strength really is the determining factor here. So about tie strengths, a lot of our understanding through MMT comes from Hawthorne, Wade, and Granovetter. And they say that tie strength, with tie strengths, they yield both strong and weak ties, yield psychosocial benefits. So for strong ties, they fulfill this need for belonging. But to create a strong tie and to keep a strong tie, it costs a lot more of our time and our energy, which means that we only have so many resources or so much time available for just a small few amount of people. And these are our close connections. So our family relationships, our best friends, our romantic partner, those type of really close connections. Whereas weak ties are described as ties that cost us less of these resources of time and energy, but they also yield less emotional benefits. And the good news is they do provide a greater access through the social network. So we can have more of these ties in our life, even if they're not as fulfilling, because they are taking up less of our time. So these are people that we're connected to, but we're not really close with. They could be coworkers, acquaintances, or just casual contacts that we have on different social platforms. So how does this tie strength, strong and weak ties, drive MMT? Well, I found this graphic from one of the theorists, and I think it actually kind of really explains it very well. It says that, we've got this little diagram here where weak ties, you may start with just Facebook and Twitter. And then as that tie grows, you may add in telephone and face-to-face and email. And then with strong ties, it would be not only are we communicating on Facebook and Twitter, email, phone calls, face-to-face time, but now we're adding Pinterest and Skype and messaging and Instagram. And it explains that all these different types of ties, both weak and strong, are given access to the same base media, these first few, but as the relationship becomes stronger, The stronger ties are given access to additional or maybe private media, different ways to know a person. So you might say, hey, follow my cat account on Instagram while I'll be posting more of my cat because I love my cat so much. I don't have a cat, but that's just one of the examples. So in other words, strong ties use lots of media and begin to co-create each other like we talked about earlier. The stronger the tie, the more media that we use. And the opposite is also true. So another thing that MMT seeks to explain is what happens if we remove some of these media touch points, or if we add additional ones. Again, this graphic comes from that same website. But it talks about how when we add a different media source, it increases our connectivity, and removing them decreases connectedness. For strong ties, very little changes in the relationship, and for weak ties, there's major changes to the relationship like we discussed earlier. And these changes in media use influence the relationship slightly differently. So as far as discussion, like personal context, this theory could really lend insights to a host of different personal and professional questions about relationships and how to better connect as humans, such as, personal context. Are these digital relationships fulfilling our needs? How do digital connections affect our well-being and our mental health? It's also a good way for parents to better understand how to connect with their kids once they're out of the house. When my college kid, goes off to college, how can I keep that relationship strong? And how this media multiplexity could help that, as well as romantic partners who are looking to maybe deepen their relationship in different ways. As far as professional contexts, this one could be more about how companies and power dynamics can be changed through our digital connections. Can media multiplexity help create company cohesion? Or is it too personal? Is that a different level of connectivity? One example I thought of was LinkedIn. When I was working for Gab Wireless, the CEO was connected to everyone from the ground up on LinkedIn. But I did feel like it made me feel like I had a stronger tie to him, to the company, and to really the mission of Gab Wireless just through connecting with him on LinkedIn. So that's another touch point where you'd see him in the office every now and then, but then, you felt like you got to know him through LinkedIn. And again, with the approachable or humanized bosses. So different theorists have sought to really expand MMT beyond that base definition of those 5 proponents, one of which was Ledbetter and Mazur in 2014. And they introduced the idea of user cognitions and how what a person thinks about a certain form of communication might affect how often they use that, which may be affecting that tie strength. And then also, again, Taylor and Bazarova, who introduced or expanded this idea of MMT to not just be the 5 propositions and not just be different sources of media, but also media frequency variability, self-disclosure, and then that disclosure variability as well. And one really interesting one is from the same theorist, Taylor, in 2019, the idea of constant availability, how connecting on these different touch points makes it seem like the other person is constantly available, and how that affects our emotional well-being in the relationship as well. So a couple questions about MMT that I had. MMT appears to be a great theoretical tool for strengthening social bonds we already have, and for understanding how and why these bonds might change over time due to digital disruptions. But one thing I began going back to over and over as I just studied this theory is that can the insights of MMT yield regarding tie strength and strong or weak tie formations be used to understand the harmful effects of social media on teens, loneliness of stay-at-home moms, social scrolling, or other phenomena? We hear how hard or dangerous, that's the other side of this debate, that these social connections can be. But MMT really sheds more light of the good things and how to strengthen those ties. So I guess I just began to question, how could we use MMT in a different way to better understand what's happening when these social ties, whether strong or weak, aren't fulfilling the need that we need socially and emotionally through these digital touch points, because so much of our lives is consumed with digital landscapes. So that's really it. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what MMT is, or media multiplexity theory is. And hey, shoot me an email or let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Thanks.